Three, two, one. I'm William DeWan.
And I'm Gillian Jackman.
And we are the hosts of Memorits, where we explore the relationship between anomalous experiences and belief.
This is the podcast where the more we share, the more we remember.
All right. And so today we have a guest, Laura, with us, who's going to share an experience that she had a number of years back in Chicago. Laura, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So just to start, can you tell us a bit about yourself and kind of leading up to the circumstances of this experience?
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm back in Chicago. This situation or event took place in 2008. I had been living in Chicago at that point for about a year and a half. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania originally. And then I had lived overseas for like 6 years and came back to Chicago just before the pandemic. Just in time to be isolated, and I'm a mental health professional, and so is there anything else you'd like to know about me?
No, I think that's,
What underwear do you wear on a Tuesday?
You know what? I actually was doing laundry the other day, and I took out I was folding all my stuff, and one of my neighbors is apparently a Virgo, because I'm also a Virgo, but there was this forest green silk thong that said Virgo on it, and I was really confused at first. So I just...
Oh my God, were you like in the laundry? No, it's mine. It's mine. No, it's mine. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. I love that. A knickers tug of war, if you will.
Yeah, for real. I was like, what?
That's amazing. Well, I think we've got to know you intimately at this point. So we thank you for this. Thank you for sharing.
Of course, yeah. Just yet another weird thing happening.
Why not? That's a great event. Maybe not as paranormal as we would like to think,
Right.
But certainly odd.
For sure.
So, Laura, if you could just set up this kind of experience for us, and just to the best of your recollection, just tell us exactly what happened.
Sure, yeah. So this was, like I said earlier, in 2008, and I was living in downtown Chicago with 4 other women. We were in college in our sophomore year, and 2 of the roommates had decided to go. This was on a weekend. I think it was a Saturday, but they were going out, 2 of them, and then the other roommate and I stayed in, and we just had a cute night in. We went to Trader Joe's, got some snacks, made some dinner, and she at the time was an art major. She's now an artist, but she had a bunch of art supplies, and we just decided to just have the TV on and doodle and just catch up. We were completely sober, which makes this it was totally memorable. And I know that it happened, right? There was nothing that could have been just any type of substance induced anything. But yeah, so we're on the floor, and we were in this loft, and it was a relatively newer building. It was pretty tall. We were on the 4th floor, and so we had these pretty big windows that went on the one side that were, I want to say I don't know how many feet, maybe 6 feet tall. And like I said, it took up the entirety of the one side of our unit. And there was absolutely no buildings outside of the window. I mean, there were some that were kind of in the distance, but none of them were tall enough for this to make any sense. So we're sitting on the ground, just doodling, and we had turned off the TV to listen to some music, and we were just chatting. And all of a sudden, the entire the way I can describe it, it happened really quickly, but it also happened really slowly. The entire apartment turned this like bright green, like the entire place. And I remember just, so the way that this was set up, it was like an open floor plan. So the living room and the kitchen were attached, but there was this really long hallway that led down, and we could see it from where we were sitting. And the circumference of these two beams just sort of like crisscrossed over one another, of this super vibrant bright green. And the circumference of they were like almost circular. It was pretty wide, and they went all the way down to the hall. And when I say the entire apartment was that color, I mean the entire place. And we just kind of froze, and we both looked out the window, and pretty high in the sky, so it was not coming from a building. We could see the light kind of like zipped into it and then like was gone. And we both looked at one another, and we were like shaking, and we just started crying. Whoa. It was this invasive type feeling. Like it wasn't like oh my God, that was so cool, what was that? It was like terror. But we were both pretty frozen, and I can't remember how long that like period of shock lasted, but we both got up and like put the blinds down, and we were just like, what the actual fuck just happened? Pardon my language, but
so sorry for our French viewers if you heard that word.
And yeah, I had drawn. I wish I still had that drawing, but in the journal that I was doodling in, I had drawn this like brick wall with the windows, and I could not see where the light was coming from. It was coming from something. I couldn't see what like the shape of it was or anything. So in the drawing, I remember I used like a highlighter to kind of depict like that same color. It was very, very bizarre.
So, Laura, how long would you say the entire episode lasted?
Like I said, it was like very quickly, but like felt very like a long time. But in reality, probably about 10 seconds.
Wow.
From like when we kind of were cognizant of like, oh my God, the entire apartment is green, to then like following with my eyes. I'm talking from my perspective, but with my eyes down the hall, and then like back over and looking at it, probably like 7 to 10 seconds.
So I have a couple questions. Thank you for sharing. It's a really, really interesting experience. I have a couple questions because you touch on some very kind of visceral things. Like obviously the experience was alarming, but I love the way, not love, but I'm interested to explore the way you use the word terror. But I also would love to understand what was the physical, was there any other than the lights, was there any other physical kind of presence or something that you could physically attribute? It doesn't have to be like there was a building, it was a light, just something physically, and then the terror thing I think is really, really interesting as well.
Sure. By physically, like where it was coming from, is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, is there a way to sort of say like it was, was there a physical something?
There was something in the sky.
Something in the sky, okay.
Yeah, and we like saw it kind of like move. Like it was so dark outside. This happened at night, so I could not, and because it happened so quickly, there wasn't time to like. There was no time to take a picture, and this was back in the BlackBerry days anyway, so it would have been like blurry, but it was definitely something in the sky, like the way that we were able to follow the light up to where it was in the sky as well. And the next day, later that evening, we had told our roommates. They were kind of like, what are you talking about? And so we waited the next day when it was light, And yeah, there was absolutely like no way that it could have been from any buildings around or anything like that. We went downstairs and we walked out to the back of the building to kind of see, like, we were like, well, maybe somebody had like two laser pointers that were, something,
Sure.
like, and kind of put their arm out the window and in. But the way that these windows were, it was around the time when like taller buildings started, you can't open the windows all the way just for safety reasons, and so there's no way that somebody could like put their arm out.
Mm-hmm.
And the gap in between floors was quite big, so it just wasn't physically possible either, as well as like the circumference of these lights were huge. I'm looking at, I'm trying to think of like how to even like huge. I could try to think of like a measurement, but it was not something that came from like a laser pointer. Um, but yeah, it it was definitely something very high up in the sky, and we did see like the light kind of went with it when it disappeared, but it was like a very quick movement, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've explained it as something that's happened quite rapidly, but then also I think it's interesting the kind of the lapse of time that you experienced, kind of having this moment where it feels like it was quickly, but it wasn't quickly. But
Yeah.
the other thing I'd love to ask you about is can you just is the terror something that was shaped in the moment because of the unknown, or has this somehow shaped your perception of your reality in a way?
So yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and I'm trying to think back to like get in my body from that happening. Like I think it was a combination of all of the things, because it was completely unexpected. We're just chilling, and then the entire place, which is a pretty big place, was just this super bright green. And I mean, you just can't explain that. And the way that the lights were moving and just the whole situation itself was just like eerie. But I remember feeling like in my body, like I started shaking, um which does not typically happen. So
So
it
you were
was
having an
just
actual
this.
physiological reaction
Yeah.
to the experience.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so it I don't know if like, I'm not saying that anything was in those lights or something. I don't know, but it was this very, like you said, visceral reaction,
Hmm.
out of just total fear of like what just happened. And then like the residual effects of it was that we would just be like, remember that time we may have saw aliens? Like, we just didn't like know how to really process it.
Yeah, of course.
And so, were you more or less on the same page with your roommate moving forward that it was something generally anomalous that you both shared?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how often would you say you would talk about it with others?
So back then, probably more frequently. Like, it was just like in college, people are talking about like just random topics. I'd say significantly more than I have found in my adulthood when I'm socializing. But it was definitely a point of conversation. It has been, and I'm not like, there's no fear that I have of like, if people think I'm like weird or something for bringing it up. But if like the subject of UFOs comes up and somebody's like, oh, has anybody had an experience like that? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, and I'll like share that. But it's just, I can't explain it, but I do. Yeah, it was definitely like something. I saw it like move in the sky, and there's no way that entire unit would turn green like that, with like the way that these, like, they were like big spotlight style lights, like just kind of like crossing over one another.
And one follow
um,
up to that is how do most people then, or now when it comes up, react to your story?
most people have been like, that's really cool, that's really creepy. I don't know if it's because I have shared it with more open-minded folks. I think if, it depends on the location and like, who you're with when talking about something like this. It has opened up discourse with others of like experiences that they've had, which hasn't happened. Like, it's not like a regular occurrence where people have like, but I have never met anybody with this like green light type experience, which has been something like I remember not too long ago, I'd say maybe like 5 years ago, I was like Googling to see if like, UFO bright green light, like if there was anything on like Reddit. And I've come across a few stories, but nothing that kind of it felt like what my experience was.
What was your interest or knowledge about UFOs prior to the experience?
I'd always been open to the idea that, like, I don't know, I'm somewhat fascinated by the concept of like a parallel universe. Like, could that be real? Could there? And I had interest in just like the paranormal. I find it all like quite fascinating just because of different energies and whatnot. And I do find it interesting that kind of like before events take place, like we just heard about these like UFOs being shot down, and then they're like, oh, we can't find them, and I'm like, well, what is happening? But just last week. But yeah, it's something that I'm in my later year, like now, I'm not always like reading up on them as much, but definitely prior to this event, like I was interested, and I would make jokes like, oh, it'd be cool to be abducted, like, but I didn't like
Oh yeah, it would.
put much thought into it. As long as they're nice, like if the aliens are listening and they're nice, like, yeah, beam me up.
It's also interesting, though, back to your initial reaction in your roommate, thinking about wouldn't it be nice, and then faced with something that seems truly anomalous and strange. Your
Right.
reaction is, highly emotional, upsetting. You said it felt like invasive.
Right. Yep. Yeah, like it did not feel good at all. The aftermath. It wasn't like it's a like cool color. Like bright green's fine. It's not something I'm gonna wear, but
Unless
like
it's Christmas.
it's not like a scary kind of color, in my opinion at least. And but the feeling was not. It wasn't like, being at a music festival and having like beams of light around and like, yay! Like it was like, oh my God. Like I feel like
You
I
weren't
am
at a Fish
drained.
concert going, oh my God,
I'm
this is the best green ever.
right. I'm actually a Fish fan.
Of course
so,
you are. I have
yeah,
no
like,
idea
I've
how I
been-
knew that, but I knew when I said, you're not at the Fish concert, that you were going to know what I meant.
Right. Right.
They are a great
So
band,
yeah,
by the way.
it's
Yes.
pardon?
They're a great band and a great show. A great show.
Right. So yeah, it wasn't like it was a very different, almost like just this dark type feeling.
So I'd love to sort of ask if there is one. Is there any kind of positive effect that you think this is kind of, we've talked about, the adverse effect of the terror in the moment, sort of the fear that you've had, the darkness in the moment as well. But is there anything that you've had that you think is a positive effect that's kind of shaped your reality from having that experience?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think it like furthered my belief that like we're not alone, and even if it felt invasive and scary, it was at the end of the day kind of like cool on reflection. Like we were like, why was our unit, because we did ask other neighbors like, hey, did you have this experience? They're like, well, no, what are you talking about? So the reasoning behind that, if there probably wasn't one, but yeah, I think it's just like cool to kind of sit with and be like, well, if we're not alone, and there are like other beings or unidentified flying objects, whatever, just kind of like bebopping through space and time, like that's kind of cool as long as they're nice.
I love that bebopping. That sounds very Midwest of you. They're just bebopping through the universe.
Right? They
I
kind of
love
are
that.
though. Like they're like zooming around. It's
If
like
you're
that's
cool
kind of
and you're
cool.
bebopping around the universe, we would love to meet you.
Right. Right.
I
But
love
like
that.
be chill, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to ask you another question too, because I'm thinking about kind of like the whole context of how this happens and people's experiences and just the sort of maybe drawing on the idea of people being open to seeing these things, because you mentioned that nobody else in the building had seen it or recorded, as far as you know, nobody else
Hmm.
was saying that they had experienced the same or something along the lines of what you experienced in. And you'd mentioned that you were in college, your sort of formative youthful years. Do you think there's
Hmm.
something to that? Do you think there's something to that, that the fact that you were, you know, I'm going to assume you were in college, you were in your
Yeah.
mid early 20s, right? I mean, I could be
Hmm.
wrong. Do you think there's something to that?
You know what? I mean, I yes, but no. So, but yeah, I was in my sophomore year, so I believe I had just turned 19, or about to turn 20. Um, I don't know because we were like sober, so it's not like we were like these like I mean, we had partied in college, but it's not like we were just like hammered or like tripping on acid and had
So you
this
mean it was a
experience.
Monday?
It,
You had
it
an
was
exam the
actually
next day.
right. It was like a weekend night, but we had chosen intentionally to just like stay in and just chill. Um, and so I don't know, like if our age had anything to do with it. Maybe we were more receptive, you know, if we look at it from like a more philosophical, I don't know, like, but I have no idea. But I think both of us were pretty receptive to like the concept of like other beings,
Mm,
like being in existence. But whether or not that had anything to do with it, we did kind of discuss that later on in life. We were like, you know, we were kind of like into aliens and like, what if that had
mm,
something to do with it? But um, who knows? I don't know, because then we hear there's stories of people who are in their like 50s, 60s, 70s having maybe not that same exact experience, but something along the lines, or at least under that umbrella of whether it's like this kind of like uh, unsettling feeling that we had versus like a just maybe like a more quizzical, like, oh my god, what is that in the sky?
yeah.
Like it seems to happen to people of all ages and backgrounds. It doesn't, from my understanding, matter. I think that's a great question though.
And then the question for me: before this experience or afterwards, have you ever had any other highly unusual, strange, anomalous, or paranormal experiences in your life?
No, I haven't. I one time I this is one time I was admittedly had smoked like DMT at a festival and was laying on the ground and was
We're
looking at the
sponsored by
stars,
DMT. You're in a safe space. It's okay.
and I was laying on my back and I was looking at the stars and I was like, what if these were all just UFOs hovering? But like that, like I had an understanding that they were not in fact UFOs, you know, but it was so no, I have not had anything of the nature of like what happened. Maybe just some like fun type, like, oh, that's cool, but nothing that was legitimately happened or was like real, if that makes sense.
Do you think that you're in some way open to it? Do you look for it, kind of like out the corner of your eye? You know, you're going somewhere in your peripheral, like, baby, I saw that. Did I see that? Did I not see that? Do you think it's something you carry with you in a way that where you're looking or searching for it in a very subliminal way, even if it's not something you're actively doing unless you're taking DMT?
Well, I don't take subs. I'm sober, so that's I'm in recovery, so that's not something that, yeah, the DMT isn't an issue anymore. Not that it was an issue at any point, but no, I am certainly more. I don't even know if it's more. Maybe it's the same amount of, but I'm open-minded, continuously open-minded to the notion of like what could be. I find when I remember like before the pandemic hit, the CIA had released documentation on like UFOs, and I'm more interested, I'd say, than maybe some of my peers or like even my partner. That it's something that when I see it on the news or like, yeah, if there's something on like Netflix or Hulu, unless it's like this like wild type like of documentary that was made in somebody's like basement, like I'm not watching that. They don't, but like something that is like has some validity to it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like I'm intrigued by it, and I am open minded to the concept of it. I'd say maybe a bit more than others. Yeah. I will say, I don't know if it like finds me, but I used to work in a rehab facility as a counselor, and two of the people who at different periods of time during my time there had told me just randomly about alien encounters that they had had, and yeah, and I don't know, consider the source, I guess, and the situation, but their stories were in great detail, and it was kind of fascinating. Like I don't discredit in my mind. I'm like, hey, you never know.
Nor do we. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah, nor do we.
We have no idea.
Did you share your story with these people that shared their story with you, or did you feel compelled to kind of keep your own story private or, closed in that particular example?
Sure. In that situation, I did not share. No,
No,
just
you didn't
because
share.
it.
Interesting. Why did you not share?
Ethics and like.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
So that was a unique circumstance. If it was anybody else, I would have shared. I did validate them, but I did not. It wasn't my time to.
Right. That makes sense. Well, you were in different contexts. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. Fascinating.
That's
very interesting.
It's a very, very strange experience, and I'm very taken aback by your initial like visceral reaction to it as well. And yeah, there are in my research there are stories similar to yours of people describing at night. I mean, it makes the most sense to have lights at night that you can see, but entering in their dwelling spaces, bedrooms of various colors and various amounts of time. So they are out there, and it's just kind of a part of a complex of it. It's almost like you think of like spotlighting deer or something in a creepy way. There's just some eye in the sky that just...
That's an American reference. I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm from London. What the hell is he talking spotlighting deer? Is that a nightclub?
Well, I'm sure there is a nightclub named Spotlighting Deer.
Probably. You know what? If there's not, let's start one now.
Right. Kansas seems like a good place. I don't know why that state came to mind.
Kansas?
Yeah, I don't even know if they have deer there.
Oh, like Arkansas or the real Kansas?
The real one. But
or
Arkansas
Illinois?
Did you say Illinois?
I
Illinois.
just said Illinois.
That's
and I said
right.
Arkansas. Yes, because those are real places in America.
Oh, boy.
If you're a Brit.
Yeah, spotlighting deer is more of like a nighttime hunting activity.
Is that like tipping cows?
No, because there's more of a purpose to spotlighting deer, where it's more like, all right, you spotlight them and freeze them, and the idea is it's pretty messed up. Then you can like shoot them or whatever.
Do you know it's illegal to tip over cows in Texas?
Well,
That is a fun fact. That is a fun fact that I can share with you, Americans. You didn't even know. You're welcome.
That's a good thing. That's really mean to do.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is speaking of like just kind of quizzical events that took place just even within this last week alone. I don't know if either one of you saw that video of there were cows lined up in a single file line for like at least a mile, and somebody
where was this?
Was driving and saw them and was like, "What is going on?" They were just standing still in a single file line for like a mile, and they weren't moving for like a long time.
Do you know what this was? Was it in Texas? Are they waiting to be tipped over so people can be fined? Because that could be some...
Probably.
That could be some higher level CIA stuff right there.
Probably the cows are cash cows.
Cash cow.
Well, there are a lot of
Cash
interesting
cows.
there's a lot of interesting stories out there about animal reactions to anomalies
Absolutely,
as well, too.
absolutely.
Right.
They really are.
You know.
Yep.
Cows being like gutted and drained and stuff. Yeah. Who knows? It was just like there was a lot of interesting stuff in the news last week.
That is
Just
It was,
like
a, it was a
ongoing.
strange week, and it's still
Yeah.
unclear as to what exactly they shot down and they did not recover. But you know,
Yeah.
Joe assures us that it's maybe balloons, maybe not. Who
Well,
knows?
it's called Nebulous News. Tune into it on all your local networks.
Right.
Well, do you have any more questions for Laura?
No, I don't think I did. Do you have any question for us? I mean, you can. We want this to be kind of a forum where we make it a back and forth, not just sort of an interrogation process. And we want it to be. And the idea of us, talking about this with all the people that we bring onto the show is we want it to kind of be a narrative. It's a back and forth. It's like, okay, we hear you and we're interested, but it's not to pigeonhole you or make you feel away. And if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to share, anything that you have.
Yeah. I mean, I find it comforting to hear that other people have had somewhat similar experiences of just these lights like coming into their homes, whether it was their bedroom or their living room or what have you, like from a window. Because like I said, I've Googled it over the years, just trying to like look on Reddit or just stories. And while I have come across some things, it's never been like validated of like, oh yeah, there's like actually more people that something like this has happened.
Right. Do you think do you find comfort in knowing that there's other people that could maybe speak to the same experience? I mean, actually specifically, would that make you feel there would be some sort of resolve?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about like resolve is a good, maybe resolve within my soul of sorts, because I know it happened. There's not like I'm not like gaslighting myself in the sense of like, oh, that didn't happen, but just knowing that other people, even like who might be on this podcast, who like could share like a similar sense of like what was that, because there's a number of things that it could be, right?
Absolutely.
But I think for us, like myself and my roommate, it was really confusing because we were like in downtown Chicago, but like the area we were in is called the South Loop, and it wasn't like fully developed yet. It's like in the heart of downtown, but the area didn't have as many like buildings, and like I said, ours was like brand new, so there's absolutely zero chance that it was coming from like a high rise,
right?
Which that like in this day and age that could be an explanation because there's far more of those now, but this was not the case, and so it's just been like a what the fuck was that, like yeah.
Are you still in contact with your roommate now to this day, and do you still reference or go back to that time and relive it, if you will, in some way to kind of like make it still part of your reality? Because the one thing that we can talk about as humans is that our memory becomes, over time, it becomes a little faded, or we embellish. And I'm not to say this is anything to you, but we all can be like, oh, did that really happen? Do you stay in touch with her maybe in some way that you're able to keep that connection to that reality and that experience?
You know what, we talk very sporadically, like maybe once a year, of like
like me and my boyfriend, we talk once a year too.
Right, it's like congrats on your engagement. Oh, sure. That's a cool, cute picture. Like it's not. We have talked about it like back in the day. We haven't lived in the same state since 2011, and then I lived overseas for 6 years, and so there wasn't as much contact, but we have like in the past we did revisit it, and it stayed the same. It's like just the memory of it. Yeah,
of course.
Well, if we do have any listeners that hear your story and want to share something similar, we'll definitely, bring
Absolutely.
that back to you.
Yeah.
But Laura, thank you so much for spending your time with us here and sharing your story with us. It's a very unusual, strange, and we don't have any answers for you.
Well,
As
it's
far
very
as
unique.
What it was.
We definitely appreciate you sharing this with us. I mean, we're open-minded, and it's great to have people that can come on the show and just explain, their experiences and how it's shaped their lives, not shaped their lives, the positive effects, the adverse effects of the time, and it's really good to sort of build this kind of understanding from people who've actually had the experience versus kind of the mediated options that we have sometimes. So thank you so much.
For sure. Oh my God, thank y'all so much.
Yeah.
And I now have a new podcast to listen to. So thank
do.
you.
Excellent.
And probably not this episode. I hate my voice.
Oh God,
I'll
we
listen
hate
to the
our
next-
voices too. We have no idea where we'll get through this. We're like, we have to listen to ourselves. Oh gosh.
I just hate Jillian's voice. So
I just hate Bill's voice, so it works out.
Well, you both sound great. So
You do too.
thank you so much, and have a great rest of
Yes,
your,
you too.
your weekend.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you.
take care, Laura.
Yeah,
Take
of
care.
course.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right.
So,
So
wow.
let's
Kinda
decompress
interesting.
for a second. What did
Yeah.
you think?
I mean, it's always interesting when people feel so strong. I think what really, I said I took so long to say, not that I was trying to discount it. I was just sort of thinking about this person had a very visceral feeling, and some of the things that I took away from it was, the word she uses, fear and terror. And to me, it's interesting to think of like this alignment with how she was so open to talking about, if there are, how does she refer to them? What did she say? She made a funny comment about like, she's open to the idea of people being in the universe and was totally open to being abducted. But there's also this idea of this experience that really left her gripped with fear and terror. And that to me there's a massive discourse there. And I think that's really interesting is it like, I'm so afraid I need to do it? Or, I think there's a lot there because it didn't seem like it was a pleasant encounter.
It almost seems like some instinctual part of you in those moments has almost like a fight or flight response.
Absolutely.
And of course, almost like, so I interviewed someone else years ago in a kind of similar story where they had noticed a strange light outside of the window at night. And then at one moment, it just moved radically, almost like a rapid, like zigzag motion. And one of the people I talked to, she just had said basically, it's like her reaction was like, ooh, almost an
knee-jerk.
Animalistic. I don't like that.
Of course.
I don't know what that was. I don't like that. That's not natural or something. And that was just, filled her with a sense of fear.
Of course.
And so that reminded me, of that older experience. And when we're faced with something we're not really sure how to compartmentalize into what we believe to be true about the world, that visceral emotional reaction to me really just makes it seem more genuine.
Definitely. And I think also too, I always use that kind of knee-jerk response to things is like when people's fear of snakes. Snakes anatomically move in a very odd way. And I think the discourse with them is not really that there are a creature, it's just the way they move. They have no legs, they're slinking around. It's like, what are they doing? It's that anomaly in its, apparition and atomical representation of itself it's just so counter to what we're used to. So I'm wondering sometimes if that's like where the terror and the fear comes from, right? Because I'm sometimes afraid of spiders, sometimes. But I have Johnny in the background here he is my spider catcher. He does not kill them. He takes them outside and away from me so we can all get on with our lives. But, it's that kind of, that instant of like, what is that? But then also, too, I love the way she was kind of open to, I would love to be abducted.
She thought she wanted to until
she saw the lights.
And, it's interesting. It's almost like, all right, well, be careful what you want here, because here we are, and how are you going to respond to that? I think about, like, the old alleged Travis Walton abduction, where he had apparently talked about his interest in the subject and being abducted, and then, well, they kind of say, all right, well, buddy boy, allegedly,
allegedly,
come on board. So it is
Literally,
interesting.
come on board.
And there are other people. Yeah, right. And there, I mean, there are a lot of people who, with experiences that I've heard from them, they're, at least the way they said it to me, they were more casual, matter of fact about it. But plenty of folks, when they say they've been coming up with something like truly anomalous, there, that visceral reaction to me is really what I find the most interesting.
Fascinating, yeah.
But also in her case, it seems like she doesn't really have any issues sharing that story with others. You know, it seems like both she and her old roommate are pretty consistent in thinking that, you know, they more or less still have that
the
same
same
memory. But
experience,
as you
yep.
talked about, if you actually were to share it with each other frequently over time, your stories and memories are going to fold in together because
Absolutely.
you're reinforcing each other's
Absolutely.
memories
Absolutely.
of the event.
That's I'm curious about that because I feel, I mean, we do that all the time in our relationships day to day. It's like, well, I said this on a Tuesday. No, you didn't. I never heard you say that. I'm like, yes, I did. You know, we do that, I think, more often than not, and more often than we're actually aware of. So I thought it was interesting how often do you keep in touch with this person where you're able to, are you solidifying that experience? Do you have different opinions about it? Are you still very aligned? I think that's really interesting too, like how over time they can still really fundamentally solidify and support that moment. It'd be interesting to talk to the roommate too and see if she felt like terror or fear because again, is that knee-jerk response to the unknown, or is there something else there, like some sort of, you know, anomaly that can instill that in you, that visceral feeling of like I'm in danger or something bad can happen to me versus it just being something that's unknown. Because those are, I think, are two very different things. Like the fear of the unknown, but something that might be able to manipulate you in a way to make you feel that way, right?
Right.
If I take it to another level.
Yeah, and I also think that's what's so fascinating about multi-witness accounts, which I'd love for us to collect a lot of them here. If any, of course,
Absolutely.
listeners have a shared experience with somebody else.
Sure.
And, you know, the best ones are the ones you actually haven't spoken with with that person for a while just to see how their experiences and their memories sort of match
Absolutely.
up, where they diverge or deviate. Because there's a lot of debate over when you see something strange, obviously you think that's a more memorable event in your mind than, you know, you're getting late night Taco Bell, you know. So unless
We
something
are not sponsored by Taco
No,
Bell,
we
by
are
the way.
not, no.
Yet.
Arby's. But what's interesting to me is, you know, are those events, I mean, not just more memorable, but then therefore is our recall of those events more
Exactly.
accurate because it's imprinted on us.
Exactly.
Or, you know, talking about these schemas that we draw from in our minds, are we just sort of like filling in what we've seen from pop
Yeah,
culture?
absolutely.
So,
Filling in
you
the
know,
blanks.
In her case, before and after the experience, her interest in the subject, her exposure to pop culture and media, movies, books, or whatever, that's going to play a role in you know, her perception and interpretation of what happened. So our memories are very messy, interesting things, and that's why, you know, with this podcast, it's so fascinating looking at the intersection between our beliefs and experiences.
Absolutely. And that's really what it's all about. It's the belief, the experiences, and then how really our realities can be shaped from our experiences, right? Because we know, by definition, the reason why we can be a certain way, act a certain way, nurture versus nurture, obviously. Sorry for all you people that land on one side of the fence with that. I'm kind of a believer that it all kinds of come together in this amalgamation. But the thought is that that's how you're shaped, right? It's only through your experiences that you become shaped and kind of can build opinions and your reality and how you perceive everything around you. And I think that's fascinating that something paranormal, something unknown, something that's just other can have a great experience. I mean, yeah. I don't know. We need to get some people on the show that can actually talk about how it's changed them in a really positive way.
Yeah, it sounds like it's worked for Laura. It sounds like
Yeah,
her, you know,
I'd say so.
She's obviously fine talking about it, and her takeaway seems to be that it's, you know, the broader message with a lot of people would echo that I've talked to is maybe the world is a bit more strange place than I previously thought.
Absolutely.
And so you can see the appeal in that thinking.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so there's our interview with Laura in the books. And
Laura.
so listeners, Keep these stories coming. If you had an experience like Laura's, you've got something entirely different in the realm of the strange or unusual.
Or you just want to call and talk to us because, we actually have no lives. I'm so sick of looking at Bill's shirt. So
It's a fine shirt. But
it is a fine shirt.
that slight aside. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
And please share those stories with us.
Please keep them coming.
All right.
All right.
Till next time, everyone.
Till next time. That wraps up this episode of Memories. Please be sure to follow us on all the social medias. And in the meantime, if you or anyone you know has a story you'd like to share with us, please email us at memoritspodcast@gmail.com.
And special thanks to Jonathan Sanders, our editor and audio engineer, as well as Chuck Jurich and Sarah Still, the composers and performers of our main theme. And last but not least, a special thank you to Cashew, our studio mascot.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening. And please be sure to tune in next week.